But Matt, Qatar Airways, it's now buying 25% of Virgin Australia, but needs still final approval from the Foreign Investment Review Board. Now, you will be glad that Qantas is going to get more competition, which should be good for flight, particularly international flights. But should an airline, Qatar, of a government that funds and protects Hamas, have that much control over a company that's so critical to Australia's transport?
Look, I agree with you that this is a commercially positive step for competition in our airline space, especially given the recent demise of Rex, at least from those capital city routes. So, look, we do need more competition. It's a tough question you raise, but it does also then raise, well, where do you draw the line here? We obviously do a lot of business and do take investment from China, and they have perhaps at least a rap sheet on human rights, as long as you could attribute to regimes like Qatar. But we traditionally haven't sought to prosecute those types of issues through our trading and investment relationships. And I think that's served our country well. We, of course, should raise issues of human rights with other nations' governments, but we also probably do need to respect their sovereignty as other governments. And it would have to take a pretty extreme case, I think, for us to close down trade. We didn't even do that during the Cold War. We've obviously done it with Russia, and it hasn't exactly worked that well. The sanctions that have occurred post-Ukraine haven't changed behaviour. So you've got to kind of work out, well, if you are going to sanction countries for trade and investment, are you really just cutting off your nose to spite your face? Is it going to actually generate change, or is it just going to cost you guys, your own country, wealth and prosperity?
Except, of course, Islamist terrorism is a threat in Australia too. And if we've got to start cutting these things off at the knees, because it will come back to haunt us. And giving a Middle Eastern country like that so much say in our economy, I think is a very big mistake. I wish China had less say myself. Britain, Matt, you'll be glad to know, is living the Greens' dream. No, you won't be glad to know this. It's just closed the last coal-fired power generator in the country after 142 years of coal-fired electricity. That has happened to stun some workers who rightly are wondering, Matt Canavan, where tomorrow's electricity is coming from. Here's one of them.
Why are they shutting a coal site when there's nothing to replace it at the moment? It just seems madness.
And not unrelated, Matt, Britain also shut its a huge coal-fired blast furnace and its biggest steelworks, both in Wales. Another 2,000 jobs gone. This is the green deindustrialising of the West, isn't it? And that's got to make China very happy.
Well, absolutely, Andrew. There's a lot of green, useful idiots, if you like, this week applauding this outcome that Britain, the home of the Industrial Revolution, has walked away from coal-fired power. But they tend to, I don't see any of them mentioning at the same time that this very week the UK government has published new figures on the relative cost of electricity in the UK, and those figures show the UK just this week has got another mantle, has taken the gold medal for the highest electricity prices in the developed world. Now, these two things connected, I think they may be. They've shut down their cheap, reliable coal-fired power, replaced it with a lot of wind and solar, which is not working too well, or only works half the time at best. And they've ended up with the highest power price in the world. And as a consequence, as you said, Britain will no longer be able to make steel from scratch. They have plans to build a recycled steel factory in the next few years, but they will no longer be able to make steel on their own bat. And yes, Britain may very well be the home of the Industrial Revolution, but because of our naivety, it looks like the future of the Industrial Revolution is going to countries like China that are just paying lip service to the climate agreements and building coal-fired power stations like they're going out of fashion.